This is the SAU Report, a program featuring interviews with the faculty, staff, students, and alumni of Southern Arkansas University in Magnolia.
Welcome. I am Doreen Durham.
And I am Anastasia Theodoridou. Among the many changes at Southern Arkansas University this summer was the installation of a new telephone system and a new computer program. Our guests today, Mary Hubbard and Kathy Cole, will tell us about these new changes.
Mary Hubbard has been on staff of SAU since 1986, and since 1995, she has been SAU's telephone switchboard operator. Kathy Cole has been on staff since January 1996 and is Microcomputer Lab Coordinator of the University Computer Services. Mary Hubbard and Kathy Cole, welcome.
Thank you.
Mary, what was the SAU telephone system like, and where was it located when you first took over the position in 1995?
The switchboard was located in the basement of McGale Library down a corridor, and it was a system that had been installed in the early 1970s, 80s. It was on the verge of being obsolete because with the new North American dialing plan we could no longer dial a lot of the new area codes in the country, so it was in need of replacement.
Kathy, how long have you been working at SAU in the computer lab, and what is your educational background?
As Doreen said, I've been with the university for a year and a half. My educational background is I graduated from Southern Arkansas University in December of '92. From that time, I substituted in local public schools and then got a permanent teaching job and taught through December of '96. And then I came here in January of 95 and came here in January of '96.
Kathy, at least I understand a little bit about the computer, the email, how to do my term papers, how to surf the net and find information for these term papers. But with this new system, what are the changes?
Your new operating system is Windows NT now. We moved to Windows NT from Windows 3.1.1. So if you had any experience in Windows, that is very helpful. It does, however, look different, and with our new system, you have a different logon procedure.
Mary, is your job very demanding?
At times, yes. Generally speaking, it's pretty evenly paced. It's demanding in the sense that people want to reach whoever they want to talk to immediately, but most people are extremely courteous when you're talking to them.
Mary, you were down in the curriculum, down underneath the library for what? How long was that with the switchboard?
Okay, I worked in the curriculum center from '86 till '95, and then I went down the hall to the switchboard until last September, October, when they moved me to the Welcome Center in Nelson Hall.
Oh, okay. And the changes now there is a new telephone system that was put in. Could you tell us some of the changes that will help the staff and the students?
One of the greatest changes is that the system has been upgraded so that all of the new North American dialing plan area codes can be reached from your phone in your office, where prior to that you had to come through the switchboard operator and I had to make the calls for you. There are numerous other upgrades to it. One of the most advantageous to staff and faculty is the use of voicemail now, where a lot of faculty had answering machines in the past. Now they're no longer necessary because voicemail is available to every faculty staff phone on campus.
Can you tell us a little bit, Kathy, about the logon procedure?
Yes, you do have a new logon procedure. When a student enters one of the computer facilities on our campus, they'll see on the screen a begin logon box. And at that begin logon box, they'll just tap Control Alternate Delete, and which will bring up a logon information box. At this logon information box, they will need to type in their username, and a username consists of a first initial, middle initial, and last name. Then they tab down to the line entitled Password, and it's there that they'll type in the last 6 digits of their Social Security number. And then there's an OK button to point and click on, or they can just tap Enter. And it's just as simple as that.
Do we need to use our Social Security number, or can we really kind of hide how you get in there with other passwords?
The first logon needs to be done with your Social Security number because that's how our system was set up. However, once you've logged on, you can change your password. And it's just as simple. Once you've logged on, you can tap Control-Alternate-Delete, which is what we used to use with the old system to reboot, do a warm boot on a system. And now what that does is it reveals a box with a button that says Change Password, and you can click on that button and the computer then will prompt you to change your password.
Now with the new system, is your job more demanding? Because a lot of students probably have questions of how to use it, and
A new semester is always hectic, and I won't say that the students are demanding. There's just information that they need to know in order to operate the computers, and that information is log-on procedures and how to get to their mail and things like that. And we're readily available, and then there's always a student assistant staffed in the computer lab that can assist students. It is very hectic in the beginning, and with a new operating system, we're still working out some bugs, and we've learned some things along the way, but I'm pleased with how everything has gotten off. It's gotten off to a grand start.
Mary, what are some of the difficulties in being the university operator? I mean, you must handle tremendous amount of calls and people forgetting the numbers that they should remember or write them down. Tell us some of the experiences.
Well, students have a tendency to go into the blank mind status as soon as 5 o'clock comes around and their last class is over with. So any former numbers that they had in their mind, they've forgotten. So after hours on the computer is basically, on the switchboard, is basically dedicated to students calling for other students' numbers. And it would be helpful to them as well if they would write the numbers down. On an average day, you stay busy at the switchboard, but you have time in between calls. During registration week and prior to registration week, the last day that you can pay and hold your schedule in place, on those days you expect to have a multitude of calls. And the only way to keep up with it is just to take them one at a time. So some people may think that it's rung 20 times before you get to them, but actually they may be 4th or 5th or 6th call that you've answered in that single minute space of time. So it gets hectic at times, but it's a gratifying job because a lot of people call and have no idea who they need to talk to, and that's the first thing they say is, I don't know who I need to talk to, but I need to talk to someone that can do this. And they expect you to route them to the correct place. And it just takes experience and time getting to know the people of SAU.
Could you name some of the new systems difficulties, if any?
Actually, like Kathy said, in the computer system, with any new system, our telephone being new, there are going to be some bugs that have to be worked out, and there are some differences that faculty and staff, just different phones operating differently. You have to learn what your buttons are for and the usefulness of them, and the buttons have to be programmed after the phones were all installed. So there are a lot of people that the buttons on the phone that are designated for different things aren't particularly doing that service right now. They will have to be programmed later on. But in general, things are smoothing out. People are really thrilled that they can make calls from their office now where they don't have to go through the switchboard any longer.
Kathy, what about this new ID security down there in the computer commons? What prompted that?
The computer lab usage peaked last year, and our peak hours were from the minute we opened until the minute we closed. And it didn't used to be like that, and it was at that time that we decided that we needed to make sure that all of our university students who are assessed a computer lab fee get the first shot at the computers. So we decided at that time that we would start IDing students. However, with our new system now, a student can't come in and log on unless they are an actively enrolled SAU student. So it's not particularly necessary that we ID a student because they won't get logged on if they're not an actively enrolled student at SAU.
There are some new icons on the computer screen. Could you describe them, starting with My Computer?
We have 5 basic icons that you'll find on the standard desktop, and My Computer is the icon that you can double-click on, and then revealed in a window are all the things that are on your computer. The different drives, your floppy drive, and it's there that you can format a floppy disk. You'll see everything on your hard drive, and also in this window you can go change your settings for printers and control panel.
How about the network neighborhood?
Network Neighbor shows you computers in the domain on the network, and it's from here that you can go, if you have the privilege, and share files with other individuals in the same domain on the network, the same domain as you're on. Yeah.
And there is an inbox icon? An inbox icon?
In Network Neighborhood?
No. There is another
Oh,
icon.
Inbox.
Yeah.
Inbox is your Microsoft Exchange. That is your new mail program. And that icon, when you double-click on it, will take you straight into Microsoft Exchange, and then straight into your inbox directory, where you'll have waiting all of your new mail messages that you have not read yet.
Mary, what's the North American, you said North American plan? What is that exactly?
That is a new plan of area codes. There are so many phones in the country that they've used up all the available numbers for the formerly assigned area codes. All area codes in the past had a 1 or a 0 as their center number. They were 3-digit numbers with a 0 or 1 as their center number. Well, they ran out of numbers in those sequences, and they had to start using other numbers. So when they did that, the systems that were programmed in the past for 0s and 1s had to be upgraded to take on the new dialing plan. So now you'll have area codes like our own that no longer have a 0 or 1 as the center number. This was especially useful for us with the new system, because since we're in the new athletic conference, we have a lot of Florida and Alabama calls, and these are like 330 area codes, and they could not be reached normally. So the new dialing plan is just running out of enough numbers in the old plan, so they had to create new area codes.
And with this new plan, do you have any idea about how much it costs the university?
At this point, no. This is a wait and see situation.
Yeah,
the university took bids on a system and got the system that most met our needs within the price guidelines that they set. But as far as the actual price in the long run, that's a wait and see situation.
Okay.
Mary, I understand you're going to a new position, right, at SAU?
Right.
What will you be doing?
I'm moving upstairs to the Office of Counseling and Testing. I'll be secretary to Mrs. Paula Washington Woods, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'll get to work directly with students in counseling and testing on campus.
But will you miss the telephone, all those calls?
Yes and no. I won't miss the ringing, but I will miss talking to the faculty and staff. You'd be amazed how many voices you recognize when you don't have a face to go with them. And I'm sure it works in reverse as well. They may recognize my voice but have not a clue who I am till now.
How did you manage to keep so many numbers and names just kind of at your fingertips? Because I'm one of those guilty ones of not writing the number down.
I think it's the old term osmosis. You absorb it by doing it, and you don't even know that you have the number memorized until someone asks you, and then your fingers just automatically go to the number they requested. But it's not a trained thing. It's just something that comes to you after a period of time.
Kathy, instead of the Netscape, now we have the Internet Explorer. Can you tell us about this?
Yes. Internet Explorer is Microsoft's internet software, and you use Internet Explorer to go browse the World Wide Web.
And the recycle bin is the last icon, I believe?
Yes. Recycle bin is where all your deleted items go. But please don't forget to empty your recycle bin from time to time. You will have to delete things again, or purge. Maybe you're more familiar with that term. All the deleted items out of your recycle bin. It gives you one last chance to be sure that you do want to delete that item.
I wanted to ask, I have a question on the email. When I pull it up, then I have all these little titles and things on there, and I'm not very computer literate, so I have a time. I go back and forth. I put one up, and can I just put one up at the top, and then will it roll? I mean, can I make all the rest of them just come up without having to put them up again? I keep going back and forth is what I'm doing.
You should have a couple of buttons on what's called your standard toolbar.
Oh, okay.
There's a down arrow and an up arrow, and it's located about in the middle of your standard toolbar. If you'll place that mouse pointer on that button, one of either the down arrow or the up arrow, I believe it will reveal a tooltip, and it'll tell you what that button does, and it will take you to the next or previous message, so that you're not always having to go back to your directory after reading a message.
That's what I have been doing.
Okay. Look for those buttons on your standard toolbar.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any major problems with the new system, in your opinion?
As with any new system, there are glitches or problems, but we've been able to work them out. One problem that we are having now is disk space, and we were aware of this problem and have been all along, and we're as soon as we get a new box or added drives, we'll be able to solve that problem.
Mary, are there hectic times when you receive a lot of calls, and is there somebody, one person or one office that seems to get a lot of calls? Who's the most popular on campus?
Well, there's probably about 4 offices that are in the running for that title, and I'm sure they'd all agree with me. The registrar's office, the admissions office, the business office, and the financial aid office. And these are also the places where people want to talk to a person. They don't want to reach a voicemail message telling them that they can leave their message. So this is something that SAU is really focusing on, that I was told and that I have briefed my replacement on, that SAU is still going to maintain a personal touch, even though voicemail is going to be an active part now. That we pride ourselves on being able to talk to people and answer their questions without them having to go around the barn to get an answer. So these offices will still be just as busy, even though I'm sure there are times when people will get their voicemail. These 4 offices will still get, I would say, over 50% of the calls to SAU.
I don't quite understand voicemail. If I'm making a call and I get to an office and the professor's gone for lunch.
Right.
And it's going to ring. Now I understand, recording.
Right.
So we have. How does this system work? How is the voicemail activated?
Okay, this is something that some of us fail to pick up on in the training sessions. You have to activate your voicemail. You can't just automatically assume that the machine is going to know that you're out of the office. So when you leave your office for lunch or after hours, whatever, you have your voicemail programmed, and you have to forward your calls to voicemail. And you can either choose to forward all your calls, you can forward your calls if the line is busy, or you can forward your calls after so many rings. And each of these require different codes, so you have your choice of choosing when to forward your calls to voicemail.
Does, I imagine the staff and the professors and the faculty have voicemail. Does students on campus that live in the dorms, do they have voicemail?
This is not available to students at this time. No. Hopefully in a few years it may be. This was not included in the bid negotiations, so it may be something that if the students really feel a need for it, it can be done in the future. Right now it's not available.
Okay.
Kathy, are there any books or videos which can help the students get more familiar with the new system?
Yes, we have a small media library. It's in the Computer Commons. When you first come into the Computer Commons, it's just there at your right. We have a little office there where we keep videos and CDs. We have 2 training stations. equipped with a VCR and a television and a computer, where you can sit down, roll it, check it out, and roll it out in somewhere into a quiet corner in the Commons and plug in your CD or your VCR tape or disc and do self-training. So, and then we have user guides, reference guides, how-tos, books. We have dummy books, and we have more on the way with all of our new programs. They're not all in yet, but we'll have books that will cover our new programs that we have, as well as some of the old ones that we retained.
So do you think the new students should get familiar with this material to improve their skills? To be quite honest, we haven't had many students come and request any of the materials. They do come, however, to the computer commons and use the computers, but as far as being disciplined enough to self-teach, they haven't quite gotten that far yet.
Will you be having some teaching programs to help the students?
We put out a flyer every year, we started this last spring when we put our media library into place, and to inform them of all the materials that we have, and we sent email messages so they know about the information that is there. And one thing that's a hot item right now is the information that we have on HTML. This is for students who desire to create their own home pages or web pages, and we've had a lot of requests for information on that, and they come seeking that, but that's the big hot item right now.
How crucial do you find basic computer knowledge is for college students?
I find that it is very helpful, but not necessary. One thing that this university does offer for students, despite their basic computer knowledge, we have an excellent freshman orientation program set up, and then a freshman seminar class set up for students, and within these programs they get some basic computer knowledge. We also have handouts. We have student assistants in the computer facilities who are ready and able to assist students despite their basic computer knowledge. And then there are, of course, introductory courses offered by Southern Arkansas University.
Mary, with the telephone system, and I know you've moved off to your new job, but the system's been how long in working for SAU?
Okay, it went into effect the first week in August. The first weekend in August, they spent the entire weekend installing the system. We were able to use cabling and a lot of equipment from the previous system, so that didn't have to be done. But with the new type of system that we have, some of it required different kind of pairings, which is a technical term that I'm really not real sure of myself, but this is what I've been told. But for the start of the semester, everyone was virtually hooked up. New faculty had to acquire new access codes because their old authorization codes are not any good on the new system. So they came back in not being able to make long distance calls with their old authorization codes, which was a bit of a challenge to them, if you will. But I think everybody is adapting well. I'm really pleased with.
Have you had any really major difficulties, or it's just that everybody learns their new codes and how the system is set? Actually,
I have been extremely pleased with how smoothly it's gone. The complications that have come up have been strictly because the training sessions virtually were for us during the summer, and a lot of the faculty are not on campus during the summer, so they had not had sufficient training on the new system, and this made it difficult for them to come in and work with it. But it has gone extremely smoothly, and we owe a lot of that to the personnel that are in charge of the training and the setting up the system, not me by any means.
But it helps your job if everything goes smoother.
Absolutely.
Mary, will you miss knowing what's going on in the SAU telephone lines?
I really will, because everybody knew zero. Whether they knew an extension or not, they knew how to punch zero, and sometimes that's the easiest number to punch. And so actually a lot of people called me that were trying to reach other people, but when they realized who they were talking to, they would stop and chat a moment. You know, this really makes your job enjoyable. And like I said, I talk to people that I wouldn't know them if I saw them walking across campus, but I knew them across the phone lines. And I guess once a switchboard operator, always a switchboard operator, because my boss this morning said, do you know the extension for? Instead of looking up something, you know, it's a lot easier if you can just ask an extension. And the people at SAU are a fine bunch of people to work with, and they made my job special.
Kathy, how important do you find basic computer skills, the knowledge, for the college student?
It is wonderful and helpful to the student, but it's not necessary. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, we have so many things set up and implemented now that a student can come here virtually having no computer basic knowledge, and there are so many programs out there and things set up for them that they can get hands-on help or information. One thing is that I notice in working in the computer commons with the students will come in and just look at their neighbor and see what they're doing, or they'll bring a friend in the commons with them and a friend can show them the ropes. So it's not necessary, but it is very helpful. I have found, however, that for the new freshmen this year, it was better that they not have very much background or knowledge, because they've had an easier time than students that attended the university last year, because they're used to the old way, and this is a new and different way. So it's not necessary, but it's helpful.
Are there times when you feel students are too demanding?
Never do I feel that a student is too demanding, but sometimes I feel incapable of meeting their needs, and sometimes I take it personally, and it may be out of my hands. It may be a hardware problem or a software problem, and that's what I'm there for, is to troubleshoot and get that problem fixed and try to minimize the frustration level of a student. I don't want them to come and not be able to find a program, or to try to run a program and it crash on them, or come and spend 2 or 3 hours on something and then not be able to print. So my frustrations are only because of things that a lot of times are out of my reach, but never do I think a student is too demanding.
Mary, what request of the students, the faculty, and staff could you make that would make, I know you're not going to be on the job, but the young lady that's taking over your job, what would make it easier for her on that job?
Well, when a new person comes into a department or an office, or even a new student on campus, I will eventually get this information, but it may be a while before it works its way down to me. So if a student makes a change in a residence hall room, it would be nice if they'd call the switchboard and say, I've moved to a different room. If you have a new person in your office or in your department, if you would call me and tell me their name and what their extension will be, then I can direct their calls, or the new operator can direct their calls immediately.
Okay.
Kathy, now with the new system, you feel that things will be better for the students?
Oh yes. We have some new programs, but most of these programs are Microsoft programs, and that is their operating system. So these work beautifully and run beautifully together. So I think things are tremendously better.
And Mary, you mentioned that you're going to a new job. What was that again?
Secretary 2 in the Office of Counseling and Testing. I'm just
Counseling and
moving
Testing.
upstairs. I'm still in Nelson Hall, and I'm still perfectly willing to help anybody locate anyone else at any time.
Still where we can find you.
Right, you can find me.
Okay. What will you be doing?
Okay, the Counseling and Testing Office counsels students and performs all the testing duties for the standardized tests, the ACTs, the NTEs, practice, the graduate level test. They're responsible for all of the testing on campus that is not directly related to a class.
We want to thank our guests, Mary Hubbard and Kathy Cole.
I am Anastasia Theodoridou.
And I am Doreen Durham. Thank you for watching.
The SAU Report is a production of broadcast journalism students in the Department of Theater and Mass Communication at Southern Arkansas University in Magnolia.